asked me recently what my thoughts were on dating outside of my social class, and I answered that I would quite literally never do that, and here's why. For the purpose of this question, I took social class to sort of mean like socioeconomic class, so my economic status, maybe around how much money I make, the social status, like perhaps the caliber of school that I went to and the spaces that I found myself in as a result, and the people I found myself surrounded by. And then also like the lifestyle I've created for myself that's a combination of like the economic status and the school and the spaces and all of that. I think you guys get how that fits together. It's important to note that I did not grow up with a lot of money. My father went to prison when I was 4 years old. During that time and all the time after, like my mom has been a public school teacher, so they don't make a lot of money. When we first moved to Atlanta, we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with 7 people sharing 1 bathroom. Like I literally shared the bottom bunk of a bunk bed with my second oldest brother, and then my oldest brother and my sister-in-law were on the top bunk of that bed. Okay, we were not a Jack and Jill family, okay? Money was not, we didn't have a lot of it. So knowing my circumstances, when I was like 12 years old, I made this vision board for myself. My mom actually found recently in her storage unit. I had basically carved out my entire life, like what I was gonna do in high school to make sure I could get into an Ivy League college, and what I was gonna do at that college to make sure I could get into a certain law school or buy a certain car and have a certain apartment or home. Like all of these things I had planned out, and I knew that because my family didn't have the same financial resources someone else's did or access to certain people to get me into doors, I had to open them myself. So that's what I did.
A lot of young people, or a lot of people, not even just young people, just a lot of people in general, they can't choose a circumstance. They can't choose their parents. And so it's unfortunate, but the way that it goes is that the kids are usually the ones that pay for the sins of their parents. And so, me personally, I hate when people say, man, the hood made you, or no, it's not. It's the thing that you evolve to survive within so that you can hopefully get to a better space. And more importantly, the hood took a lot of people under, and we don't talk about those. We only talk about the success stories because there's always going to be the anomaly, or there's always going to be the person that make it out of it. So, what you usually are supposed to do, before I even get into the rest of the video, because I'm reacting to this in real time, what you're usually supposed to do is you want better for yourself, and ultimately, hopefully, you want better for your children. You don't want your children to go through the same thing that you went through, and so you try to create an environment that's going to be best for them, that's going to be conducive for them, that's suitable for them to not have to go through some of the same things that you went through. And it's not that you don't want them to learn a lesson. They're not soft. You're supposed to allow for them to fail in a controlled environment to be able to learn the lessons that you had to learn in real time, maybe, depending on how you grew up. First, let me say that I always like to give credit to the content creator. So her name is Clark, I believe, and I'll be putting a link to her profile in the description of this video, because I always like to give credit whether I agree with them or not. So I haven't gotten to the rest of this video. But I also invite you guys to tap into the Patreon. We got Stock Club that's coming up tomorrow. And so that's going to be popping. Tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. And then also on top of that, Teach Hanley, 40% off your first order plus 20% off for life. It's a phenomenal product. Do not ask me how it is that I get my skin so cool and clear. Ladies, get it for the fellas. Fellas, don't wait for the ladies to get it for you. I told the people on the Millionaire Morning Show this morning that I was thinking about putting it on my whole body. Anyways, whole nother conversation. Let me get back to what she's saying.
I created an insane amount of opportunities for myself by literally putting my blood, sweat, and tears into everything I did. From the time that I was 12 years old until now, like 23, I was so intentional about every decision I made, whether it was not dating in high school or not drinking or prioritizing school or trying to get different scholarships. I did everything in my power to make sure that the life I was creating for myself while I was kind of stepping into the autonomy that I would have as a young adult, even as a teenager going into a young adult, being able to create the life I want to, that I was doing everything in my power to have something different than what I had growing up. And of course, I didn't have to do this. I didn't have to stay up all night applying to scholarships to earn over $500,000 to go to college. I didn't have to apply to Columbia and do all the things that is required to get into a school like that. But I wanted to, because I wanted to have a certain life. Even when it comes to content, when I started making content, I was taking 19 credit hours. I was working 3 days a week in office at my internship, but then I was also working with a tech startup virtually, and then I also started doing content, and it was probably one of the hardest times in my life. But again, I knew that I wanted to set myself up for greatness, and that is what was required. So
let me give a little bit of credit to this woman, because we don't give credit to the people that make sacrifices. We always talk about, or the thing that's the most popular is usually the ones that is for the streets. And I think that it's a difference. Now, again, I haven't gotten to the rest of the video, but let me just say this. The problem with most women today is that they look to date outside of their current circumstances and they think that they're better than they really are. They haven't really taken inventory. So the thing that I mainly have a problem with is people thinking that their value is associated with how they feel about themselves, and they can't substantiate it with real facts or real evidence or a lifestyle that they basically have created for themselves. And I'm not talking about middle part bust downs and all of that. I'm talking about real substance, something that you really went through. You made the sacrifice. You didn't open up your legs when everybody else was partying. You wasn't for the streets. You know what I'm saying? You was reserving yourself and you was pouring into yourself to build yourself up. Of course, you should attract something that closely reflects where you are. It's not just based off of your own standards. You can't go out here, have 3 kids with 3 different baby daddies, and then all of a sudden have a different standard for what it is that you want. I mean, you can, but it doesn't mean that it's going to translate, so don't get mad when you're not able to attain it. And then, of course, it may be a simple 2 here or there that may get caught inside the web's nest. But the point is that sometimes you got 1 or 2 or 3 or a generation of people or a group of people that break through because they just put the work in, they made the sacrifice, they didn't allow for themselves to fall victim or be in this trap that was set for them. They just sidestepped it. They looked at everybody else and they said, nah, listen, I'm going to be intentional about the thing that I craft for myself. So far, I'm with her. Circumstances that she was born into wasn't ideal, but she didn't let that stop her. She made the adjustment. She made the sacrifice. She didn't put herself in a position to have to suffer as a result of it, and she's not blaming anybody for her problems, but she created a better environment for herself. Let's rock.
Knowing that, understanding how much work I put into the person that I wanted to be and the life I wanted to have feels so unfair to me now, and also to my younger self, who was just so forward thinking and put so many things on the back burner to prioritize the life that I would have right now. For me to date someone who cannot give me the life that I've always wanted, they can't match it. I don't even need you to give it to me because I've already gotten it for myself, but if you can't be right there with me, it's not fair to me to lower my standards or accept.
I was about to say red flag. I think she might have tripped up in her words a little bit, but she corrected it. She said a man that can't give her the life that she wanted. Let's hear the rest of it.
Certain things that I knew I never wanted to, which is why I work so hard on myself just so that I can be with you. And it is not lost on me the fact that a lot of guys my age are just not going to have what I have, because I'm in a very unique position to make an insane amount of money for someone my age. And that's where the other part of the socioeconomic status comes in. I need to at least see that you have worked as hard as I have to put yourself into certain spaces, to open up certain doors for yourself, to go to certain schools or whatever it is, because you have this intrinsic ambition and drive, because you know that you also have your eyes set on the sort of lifestyle that I do, and that is what you're actively working towards every day. Not having that does not make you a bum. It doesn't make you undesirable. It doesn't make you an unattractive man or anything. It just makes you incompatible with me and the lifestyle that I want to have. I appreciate the drive that I have and the confidence that has been instilled in me because of all the things I've been able to do for myself, and I really appreciate that in other potential partners as well. So if I'm really considering seriously dating someone, not just a casual date, whatever, this is something that is a requirement for me. It's not oh, I hope, or maybe I will. I've tried it before. I'm not doing it. This is what I require, and I don't think it's a lot to ask.
I don't have any problem with what she's saying. The only part that I think that she's missing is character. Character is important. It's not just based off of grind, hustle. I think that all of that is great. I think that all of that matters. That is very important also. Effort matters. It does. You have to have somebody that is on the same page, that is a part of being equally yoked. Obviously, we want to throw beliefs in there, but I don't think that that's a part of the conversation, so I'm cool with her leaving that out. But I think that character is important, because you can get around people that are super inspiring or super ambitious and stuff like that, but they may not be a good person. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that's just the only part of the conversation that's being left out. I'm glad that she also mentioned that, and I'm assuming that she's in her early 20s or maybe in her mid 20s. I'm glad that she also mentioned that her expectations for what men are at that age are not outsized, because when you're younger, you're supposed to be broke, right? You know what I'm saying? Because you're building. And so the thing that you're building towards, you're building up that capital, you're building up that equity. You ultimately are putting stuff into yourself, but you're making a sacrifice. So I'm not necessarily tripping off of what she's saying. All she basically saying is, yo, I want somebody to match the effort that I'm putting into myself because our future is bright and I don't want to drag nobody along with me. I don't think that that's an unreasonable ask. I just want her to also throw the character part in there. Let me know what y'all think. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. Maybe this is something that we can also add into the conversation on After Hours. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Can't wait to read what y'all got to say.